Okay, welcome everyone to week one. And to preface this, I want to start off by introducing who I am, what we're going to be going through, and what this actually is. So, this is part of what I'm planning to be a 30 to 36 ish week structured content on critical thinking, on developing critical thinking, higher order thinking skills, and items of this notion. And this will be the first week's content on what critical thinking is, and especially because in the context of who I am and what I operate in as a Muslim, why we should strive for it, why we should want it. And before we begin, I will go a little bit into our roadmap of how today will look. I have given approximate times. These aren't set in stone. I might breeze through some parts really quick, and other parts I might take nice and slow. So we will have a brief moment talking about who I am as the presenter. We will then go a little bit into what this lecture series is, and what I seek to get out of it. We will then get into the nitty-gritty of this week's content on what is critical thinking and how to approach it. We will then analyze and contrast this with how Islam views thought and critical thinking. And actually, we will in fact go into what the Quran itself talks about critical thinking. Finally, we'll bring it all together, and then I'll show what readings I recommend for this week, and then what will be next week, inshallah. So, moving swiftly on, and I don't like to talk a lot about myself, but I do think it's important that I explain who I am when talking about a topic like this. So my name is Abdullah Taksim. I go online as ATK, and for the remainder of this, I will just call myself ATK. If you were to ask me to explain what is my passion, what is my goal, what do I want to do with this life that God has given me, it's to develop a generation of critical thinkings, of Muslims and non-Muslims alike, who can read, challenge, understand, and interpret academic and religious text. And this comes from several different positions. One is that I fundamentally believe for Muslims to succeed, we need to have developed our own infrastructure. And I think this is for any group within the Western world. We need to develop our own infrastructure, and we can only reach these standards and these points when we take the first step and the first initiative, and we don't start rolling over and consuming the content that is given to us, but rather that we create our own content and we present our own ideas succinctly, in depth, and in great detail. And this is part of what I mean by I want to create a generation of critical thinkers. I'm given into the language of the Western world, but it's because that language is what we are most familiar with and what will most greatly explain in as few words as possible what I'm trying to do. A little bit about my academic background. For the past 6 years, I've been studying philosophy with a focus on cognition and metacognition, how we think and how we think about what we think. And some of this has been structured within institutions, and other parts of this has been independent. I've also been studying psychology, completely structured, for the past 4 years. Recently graduating from my bachelor's and currently doing my honours and my Islamic studies as well under various mashayikh in Australia and overseas for the past 3 years, both structured and independent. And I do want to note a very important thingy. These three fields I've just mentioned don't sit separate to each other. Each and every one of them inform each other in my worldview. How my psychology informs my Islamic studies, how my psychology informs my philosophy, how my philosophy informs my Islamic studies and psychology. And so this course, what I'm presenting, is a intersection of all of these connections and how they all intercede and reflect upon one another. And I do want to preface now, and I will always preface this at the start of every lecture, I do make mistakes. I will probably make a mistake. So if anything I mention here confuses you, you struggle to sit with, comment it down below, reach out to me. Otherwise, reach out to those more knowledgeable than me. There are so many mashayikh out there. I'm only creating this out of necessity. I don't think enough content is being made about this, so that is why I'm making this. What drives this work? So there are 3 things that deeply inform this series and inform most of what I do outside of the series as well. The first is cognitive development. Essentially, I want to create individuals and minds that can actually think, that aren't just fed content and parrot it around, but actually think. One of my favorite lines from one of my teachers, Sheikh Bahton, is that you verify before you amplify. And this is the foundational basis for what I mean by cognitive development. People who actually think and research and understand what is being given to them instead of just taking it. The second is spiritual grounding. As a Muslim, my worldview is impacted and developed and grown through Islam, and everything I want to teach, I want to anchor within the Islamic tradition. For too long, we have been taught items and notions and ideas and abstract concepts outside of the realm of Islam, and instead within the realm of secularism and Western society. I want to contrast this and make this spiritually grounded. And last is community impact. I firmly believe the greater the individual, the greater the community. The greater the community, the greater change we can do.